Hello, my name's Steve. Steve Doubt. My website is stevedoubt.com. And I live in Michigan in the United States. When we talk about Michigan, our state looks like a hand, and so I would say I live right there. Ow. Now, I want to tell you a story that we in the United States tell a lot around campfires with Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. It's kind of scary, but not too much. It's called My Long, Long Fingers and Ruby Red Lips. Now, Bob needed a job. He needed a job so he could pay his rent, so he could buy food, so he could buy clothes, so he could get the latest cool phone and games and things like that. Well, he didn't really need it for that, but that's what he wanted. So he looked in the newspaper and he found a job. The newspaper said, you can make $1,000 for one night of work. Well, $1,000, that's a lot of money for one night's work. And so he went to the place where the ad said to go. And it was this huge, beautiful house, not like this one back here. It was a beautiful house. And he went up to the door and rang the doorbell, and this man came out and he said, yes, I need someone to stay in another house that I have. You see, I make my living by getting old houses. They're calling it kind of falling apart like this one back here. And then I fix them up. But I bought this house, that house, and I found out it was haunted. But I am afraid of ghosts. Now I know that if somebody is able to stay in that house all night long, that ghost will go away. But since I'm afraid of ghosts, I pay somebody else to do it. I've tried to have other people do it, but it turns out none of them stay past midnight. They'll go running away screaming. Well, Bob thought about it. And he said, well, I'm not afraid of no ghosts. I'll stay in that house. And to prove it, that I can do it, you can lock all the doors and windows in that house. Well, that night, the man took him out to the house and he locked all the doors and the windows. Well, he let him in the front door. And he said, there's food in a refrigerator. And the house is all set. You can stay in any one of those bedrooms up in the upper part of the house. And then he locked the door and he left. Well, Bob looked around, and sure enough, there was food, and it was kind of clean house. It was kind of nice, but there was a problem. He couldn't get cell phone coverage. He couldn't get TV channels. He couldn't play games. There was no internet. Oh, no. Oh, it was horrible. And since he was kind of bored already, he thought, well, okay, I'll just make some dinner. He went into the kitchen. He made a big bowl of spaghetti. In fact, it was so much, he couldn't eat it all. He ate about half of it, put the rest in the refrigerator, and he went upstairs to one of the bedrooms to go to sleep because he'd eaten a lot, and so he was kind of tired. Well, he laid down in that bed, and he went to sleep. And he woke up right at the stroke of midnight. And there, in front of him, looking down at him, was this horrible, green, ugly ghost. And the ghost had this nose that was big and long and went like this. Now, this is a part that I'm going to say over and over again, and you can do it too. If you stand up, when I get to this point in the story, you can say it with me. The ghost leaned over him, and he looked at him, And he said, "Do you know what I can do with my long, long fingers?" And Bob said, "No, I don't know, and I don't want to know." And he ran out the door. And he went in the bathroom. Well, that ghost could smell him with that weird nose of his. And he floated through the walls into the bathroom. And he saw Bob down there, and he went closer and closer. He said, "Do you know what I can do with my long, long fingers?" And Bob looked around for something he could throw, and he found this jar of hand cream. And he threw it at the ghost, and the ghost caught it. He said, "Oh," wiped it all over his hands, and he said, "Now I have very soft, long, long fingers." And Bob ran out the door. He ran down the stairs, and he ran into the kitchen of that house. And he found that plate of spaghetti. He hid under the cupboard there in the kitchen, but the ghost could smell him through the floor and through the walls, and he went down, down, through the walls and the floor into the kitchen. And he came up to Bob, and he saw him there under the counter, and he got closer and closer, and he said, "Do you know what I can do with my long, long fingers?" And Bob said, "No, I don't know, and I don't want to know." And he looked around, and he had that plate of spaghetti, and he threw it at the ghost, and the ghost, and it hit the ghost and went and dripped all over. The ghost had spaghetti sauce dripping, and he went like this. "Oh, that's very good. Do you have a little Parmesan cheese to go with that spaghetti?" Bob said, "No, no, and I don't want to know about your long, long fingers." And he ran downstairs into the basement. Well, he went into the root cellar. Now, a root cellar, if you don't know what a root cellar is, it's a place where you can store vegetables. And it's cool and it's dry, so the vegetables will stay for a long time. Well, in this case, in the root cellar, there were not only vegetables, but there was a lot of jars of tomatoes. Somebody had canned tomatoes. And so Bob was hanging in there, and that ghost smelled him through the kitchen floor, and he floated down through the floor into that root cellar. And he leaned over Bob, and he said, "Do you know what I can do with my long, long fingers?" And Bob said, "No, I don't know, and I don't want to know." And he pulled that jar back, a jar of tomatoes. He was going to throw it at the ghost, and then he looked at it and thought, "Oh, somebody took a long time putting those tomatoes in that jar, and if I throw it, it'll get glass all over the place." So he put that jar carefully back on the shelf, and he left. He ran upstairs, ran to the living room, and he hid under the coffee table in the living room. But that ghost could smell him through the ceiling of the basement there, and he floated up through the ceiling and into the living room. And he saw Bob there underneath the coffee table, and he went up to him and he said, "Do you know what I can do with my long, long fingers?" And Bob said, "No, I don't know, and I don't want to know." He looked around for something he could throw. He found a book, and he picked up that book, and he threw that book at the ghost, and the ghost caught it, and he said, "Oh, a book. Oh, I like this book. This is a funny book." And he sat down on a chair, and he started reading, and every once in a while he started laughing when he got to a good place. And while the ghost was busy reading that book, Bob tiptoed up the stairs back into that bedroom where he started. He went into the closet, and he closed the door of the closet, and he went to sleep. Well, it was just about morning when he woke up, and there was the ghost, there in the closet, right in his face, and the ghost was looking down, saying, "Ha ha, do you know what I can do with my long, long fingers?" And Bob said, "No, I don't know, and I don't want to know." And he looked around for something he could throw, but he couldn't find anything to throw. It was a closet. It was empty. And he tried to run, but it was a little bitty closet. And the ghost was in the way. He couldn't get away. And the ghost saw that and said, "Oh, I see now that I have you trapped. Finally, I can show somebody what I can do with my long, long fingers and my ruby red lips." And he went, and then he disappeared. And that is the story of the long, long fingers and the ruby red lips. Thank you. Before I go, I want to encourage you to look for more of these kinds of stories from tellers from all over the world. You can go to Katha's YouTube channel, and right there is the place where you go to see that channel. And so I hope you enjoyed the story. My name is Steve Doubt. My website is stevedoubt.com. And maybe I'll see you again. Watch out for those ghosts.